May 22, 2011, 5:17 p.m., Joplin, Missouri, a city of 50,000 people. An ordinary Sunday, children coming home from school, families having an early dinner. The Walmart parking lot on Rangeline Road was full. The sky was gray. But in the Midwest, the sky is always gray at the end of May. No one paid attention. No one paid attention because Joplin had gone through tornado warnings before. Dozens of them. And nothing ever really happened. But today was different. And in exactly 38 minutes, this city would never be the same again. To understand what was about to happen, you need to understand what meteorologists were seeing that afternoon. Since noon, a line of severe storms had been forming over Kansas. Slow, methodical, like something that knows it has time. Meteorologist Mike Smith, who had worked with storm warning systems for 3 decades, described what he saw in the data like this. It was the signature of something that does not forgive. At 5:11 p.m., the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for Jasper County. Emergency alerts sounded on radios and televisions across Missouri, but tornado warnings go off every week in the Midwest. Most people turned off the radio. What they didn't know, what no one could have known at that moment, was that the supercell forming southwest of Joplin was not a normal tornado. It was feeding on something rare. A collision between warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico and an Arctic air mass descending from Canada. The two systems met right there, on that exact day, directly over a city of 50,000 people. The atmosphere was charged like a capacitor about to explode. At 5:17 p.m., security cameras in the city were already capturing something on the horizon. A wall of clouds, too low, too dark. In homes along the southern corridor of the city, dogs began barking non-stop. Horses on nearby farms refused to enter their stables. There's something primitive in animals. They sense pressure changes the human body ignores. The funnel touched down at 5:34 p.m. southwest of the city. In the first seconds it looked small, it looked controllable. It looked like the kind of tornado you watch through a window and later tell your friends about. But EF5 tornadoes, the highest category on the scale, don't grow gradually. They explode. In less than 2 minutes, the funnel went from 300 meters wide to over 1.6 kilometers. A mile-wide path of absolute destruction, moving through the city at 32 kilometers per hour. Fast enough to catch you, slow enough to consume everything. At 5:36 p.m., the tornado entered Joplin. The sound people describe is not what you imagine. It's not a howl, not a distant roar. It's a continuous thunder, like a freight train passing inches from your ear. And it doesn't stop. Atmospheric pressure drops so fast that windows explode outward before the wind even arrives. Brick walls of older homes don't collapse. They disappear. Not fall, disappear. Trees that took decades to grow are ripped out by the roots, as if the earth itself were vomiting them out. Cars are thrown hundreds of meters. Some are found days later, stacked on top of each other in ditches, as if someone had folded them. The St. John's complex is directly in its path, the entire hospital. Within seconds, the roof of St. John's Regional Medical Center, one of the largest hospitals in Missouri, is torn off completely. Patients on ventilators, patients in surgery, patients who couldn't move. And the tornado hadn't even reached downtown yet. Here's what the meteorological models did not predict. Here's what no expert expected. EF5 tornadoes usually follow a narrow corridor. They are devastating within a defined path. If you're 800 meters from the center, you have a chance. This tornado didn't behave that way. For reasons scientists are still studying, the secondary wind field around the main funnel was as powerful as most EF3 tornadoes. The destruction wasn't concentrated in a corridor. It was a field of devastation more than a mile wide. This wasn't just a tornado. This was a city being erased. In 22 minutes, the tornado traveled 35 kilometers, more than 6 kilometers across the urban limits of Joplin, from end to end. Meteorologists who later analyzed the data were left speechless. One of them simply said, "I've never seen anything like it in the records." And tornado records in the United States go back over 100 years. The city's communication system failed within minutes. Cell towers were knocked down or overloaded. Phone lines destroyed, emergency networks disabled, police and firefighters trying to respond couldn't communicate with each other. St. John's Hospital was left without a roof, without power, without communication. Doctors and nurses performed triage in the parking lot, in the dark, with whatever they had. Entire neighborhoods were gone. Not a wall remained, not a pole, not a street sign. Survivors trying to call for help couldn't say where they were because every visual reference had disappeared. The city they knew no longer existed. People were trapped under debris covering entire blocks. Children were separated from their parents in seconds of chaos. Elderly individuals who couldn't move were buried under wreckage, calling for someone who might no longer be alive. And for hours, radio silence was total. No one knew the real scale of what had happened, because there was nothing left to transmit. There's a story that circulated in the days after that, captures what Joplin lived through that night. A group of customers inside the Walmart on Rangeline Road crouched at the back of the store when the tornado hit. The walls collapsed. The roof was ripped away. But heavy metal shelves held part of the structure, creating an accidental survival pocket. When the silence came, they walked out through the debris, and they didn't recognize where they were. The parking lot they knew by heart no longer existed. The intersection they passed every day was unrecognizable. In 22 minutes, the mental map they carried had become useless. A firefighter named Chris Heaton spent 11 hours digging through debris with his bare hands after heavy equipment couldn't reach certain areas. He found 4 people alive that night. He also found others who weren't. At an elementary school, teachers covered children with their own bodies during the impact. All of them survived, not by luck, by choice. There was a Dr. James Mayfield, who was performing surgery when the roof of St. John's was torn off. He didn't stop. He finished the procedure, in a hospital without a roof, with debris around him, with rain pouring in through where the ceiling used to be. He finished the procedure. The numbers came in the following days: 158 dead, the deadliest tornado in the United States in more than 60 years, more than 1,100 injured, 7,500 homes destroyed or severely damaged, an estimated $2.8 billion in damages, 1/3 of the city destroyed in less than half an hour. To put it into perspective, the destruction path of the Joplin tornado was larger than the devastation corridor of Hurricane Andrew when it struck Florida in 1992, and Andrew was a Category 5 hurricane. What crossed Joplin that afternoon was a tornado, a single tornado. FEMA classified the event as the costliest tornado in U.S. history in terms of structural damage. But numbers don't capture what was lost. There is no number for a family photo album that vanished, for a dog that was never found, for a home where 4 generations lived that is now just a concrete slab. There is no number for that. There is something unsettling about Joplin's story that goes beyond destruction. The warnings worked. The systems did what they were designed to do. The 24-minute warning was issued on time. The sirens sounded. And still, 158 people died. Because EF5 tornadoes don't respect improvised shelters. They don't respect shallow basements. They don't respect the difference between someone who paid attention and someone who didn't. What saved lives in Joplin wasn't just technology. It was the decision to take seriously what seemed like just another warning. Today, tornado forecasting science is significantly better than it was in 2011. Models are more precise. Alerts arrive earlier. Tracking is more detailed. But the window between warning and impact is still measured in minutes. And minutes in an EF5 are the difference between being under a concrete slab or out in the open. Joplin was rebuilt. The streets came back. The homes came back. The hospital, after years, came back. But there is something the people of Joplin carry that no reconstruction can erase. The certainty that a grey sky on a late Sunday afternoon in May might be the last one you ever see, and that the only reasonable response to that certainty is to treat every warning as real. Because sometimes, rarely, but sometimes it is. See you in the next video.